Hello and welcome to an odd edition of Cracking the Cryptic. I've been on an aeroplane, hence I'm on my laptop today, so apologies if the audio quality and the video quality isn't what you've come to expect from the channel. But I did spend a very, very enjoyable half an hour on the aeroplane solving this puzzle on the screen, and it is a work of art, and therefore I'm going to overcome jet lag to show it to you today. I have solved it already, obviously, so this is going to be a walkthrough rather than a live solve. But it is brilliant. It is a brilliant puzzle, and it's by Phistomefel again. We've done a couple of his puzzles recently. Christoph Seeliger said that I really should have a go at this one because he said it was so good, which is why I took it on the aeroplane. And it is absolutely stunning. It's a completely new variant, not something I've seen before. So let me tell you how it works. You can see that we've got ordinary killer Sudoku cages peppering the grid, but it's called Isolation Sudoku. Now what does that mean? That means that this 16 cage is probably the best place to show you. We know the 16 cage is going to contain a 7 and a 9. But now, because it's Isolation Sudoku, we could not put a 7 or a 9 in this cage because it's orthogonally connected with the 16 cage. So this is the additional restraint that we need to work with, and believe me, you will not be able to solve this puzzle without working with the constraint quite considerably. As usual, if you'd like to have a go at the puzzle, do click on the link under the video, and that will take you to our webpage where you can have a go. And with that, I'm gonna it's 2 o'clock in the morning UK time for me, so it's really late. So I'm going to now try and remember how to solve the puzzle and show you it. The logic is beautiful, so you're going to love this. Right, now I think what I started with was noting that this 8 cage must contain a 1. And that got me thinking a bit about this bottom left box, because now, because of the structure of this 8 cage, look, it sees this 15 cage and this other cage in this box. So the 1 now has got to be shifted downwards. It's got to be in one of those squares. But if we think about this a bit more, whatever else I put in this 8 cage also must appear in the 15 cage at the bottom, because it can never appear in those 5 squares. So whether this 8 cage is 1, 2 and 5 or 1, 3 and 4, 3 of the 4 cells in this 15 cage must add up to 8. Now, what that tells us is that one of them must add up to 7, because obviously we're going to have 8 and 3 cells. We need to get to 15, so there's going to have to be a 7 in the 15 cage as well. And this, I think, is the breakthrough that Phistomefel intended to, lock into the puzzle. You can see neither of those can be a 7. Actually, the 7 has got to appear down here. But why do I think this is the breakthrough? Well, it's because we can now use the 45 rule on this bottom left-hand box. Obviously, this bottom left-hand box will contain all of the numbers from 1 to 9. They add up to 45. But we've got a 15 cage and another 15 cage already in the box. So these 2 squares have got to sum to 15 without using a 7. So these 2 squares are 6 and 9. And look up here. There's another 15 cage at the top of the grid. Now, this square can no longer contain a 6 or a 9. So now this 15 cage has got to be 7 and 8. And I think that this is the initial step that we needed to find. Now, 9s in these squares mean there's a 9 in one of those 2 squares, but because of this orthogonal connection rule, I can't put the 9 here because then it will be connected to this 9. So the 9 must go into this square. This 27 cage on the right must always contain a 9 and an 8, in fact. So this square isn't a 9 now, and the 9 must be in one of those 3 positions. And this is great because it locks a 9 into the 12 cage at the top of the grid. So now that 12 cage must be 1, 2, 9. And this has quite a profound effect because of the 1 and the 2 in this cage. A 27 cage can never contain a 1 or a 2. the other 3 digits could never be big enough to make 27 if we put a 1 or a 2 in this cage. So where can the 1 and the 2 go in this box? They're forced into those 2 squares. Now we know there's a 1 and a 2 in 2 of those 3 squares. We also know this 15 cage here. It's going to need to have a 1 or a 2 in it. It's going to be 915 or 924. So this square must be a 1 or a 2. This square must be a 4 or a 5. And now we can do a little bit more logic. Look, we've now got a 27 cage in this box and 3 more. So these 6 cells add up to 30. So these 3 squares have got to add up to 15. Now the only numbers we've got left for row 1 of the grid are 3, 4, 5 and 6. So these squares are 4, 5 and 6, therefore that gives us 3 over on the left. Now what did I do next? Oh, I remember. Yeah, this is cool. The next step is cool. I think this is what I was meant to find. I looked at this column. Now this column here, column 6, contains 3 10 cages. Now the interesting thing is not necessarily that we've got 6 cells here that add up to 30. It's that we can't put a 5 in any of these cells. So we need to put a 5 somewhere in this column. Where can the 5 go? But if I try and put the 5 at the bottom of the grid, that means these 2 squares would need to sum up to 10, because we've obviously got 30 plus 5, that's 35. We need these 2 to make 10 to add up to 45. But in fact, this is totally impossible now, because if this is a 1 or a 9, that would lead to a 1 or a 9 in this square, and we can't have a repeated 1 or 9 in the box. If this is a 2, this square is an 8, and it's connected to the 8 in the 27 cage. So the 5 can't go here, and therefore only this square can be a 5 in this box. Isn't that brilliant? Now, let's think a bit more about this now, because this gets seriously interesting. This square can be a 4 or a 5. What happens now if I try and make this square a 4? Where do I put a 4 in this box? The answer is nowhere. That nowhere could be a 4. The 4 would rule out those 3 squares, but the 4 would also be connected to these 3 squares, because obviously these cages are orthogonally connected to one another. So this is not the 4. This must be a 5. This must be a 1. These squares over on this side have got to be, what's that going to be? 4, 6 and 2, I think. So we'll label those up and continue on our journey. Now, as we've got 4, 5 and 6 there, these squares now, let's remove the 8 and the 9 actually. We know these squares are 3, 7, 8 and 9. Just don't quite know the orientation of all the digits. We can label that up. Now, oh yes, this square, look, that square is now very restricted because it's already got a 1, 2, 5 and 9 in the box, but it's connected to a 3, 7, 8 and 9 in this box here. So the only 2 cell or numbers that are valid for this 10 cage are 4 and 6, which is rather good because that means that square must also be a 4 or a 6. We know these 2 squares have got to equal 10 because of the logic we used on column 6 already, so there's no way this can be a 1 anymore, because if it is, that square would have to be a 9 and would break our 9 cage. So this is a 2 or a 9, this square must be a 1 or an 8, which is perfect because that means this square is also a 1 or an 8. And look now, we have a 1, 8 pair, so none of those squares can be 1 anymore. The 1 must go into that position there. And let's have a think about what we can do next. Well, one of the things we can do is notice the 6 and a 9 in this cage. So where can the 6 and the 9 go? in this 3 by 3 box. I mean, this is so beautiful. There can't be a 6 or a 9 in any of those 3 squares. There can't be a 9 in either of those squares, because if there is, that would also lead to a 1, and that would connect with the 1 down here. Similarly, there can't be a 6 in this 10 cage, because we already have a 6 in the column. So these squares here must be, or must include, 6 and 9. But now, what can this 10 cage be? It can't be 4, 6, it can't be 1, 9, it can't be 2, 8, because that will lead to connected 8s. So the only option for this 10 cage is 3, 7. And now, now we can quickly tidy up whether this can be a 1 or an 8. If this is an 8, how do we make this 15 cage work? And the answer is we can't, because there'd already be a 6, 7, 8, 9 in this box. So the biggest number I could put in this 15 cage would be a 5. And 3, 4 and 5 add to 12. Not enough. So this square has to be a 1. This is the 8. The 15 cage must include an 8 now. And how are we going to get the other 7 that we're going to need? Well, we can't use 1, 6. We can't use 3, 4. So this 15 cage is now 2, 5 and 8. Oops. Which means this cage here must be 4, 6 and 9. And you'll see immediately now there's a 4 in this cage. Therefore, there is no 4 in this cage, which fixes that this 8 here must be 1, 2 and 5, because that would allow us to put a 2 and a 5 down below there. It's so clever, this, the way it all interacts and hangs together. We have a 5 already in this column, so let's get rid of the 5 there. And we now know that these squares here must be 3, 4 and 8 as well. Three at the top, so let's get rid of the 3 here. You can see we've got 3's in these 2 squares and 3's in these 2 squares. So we still need a 3 somewhere in row 9. So it's going to have to be in one of those 2 positions. So we should label that just in case it's helpful. We know this square is a 9 because we know that these 2 had to add up to 10. So again, we can fill that in. See if that tells us anything new. These squares now, the squares have to be 2 and 8 to complete the column. And oh yeah, look at this logic now. Yeah, this I'm sure was something I was meant to spot. There are 5's in this cage, obviously. So we need to put a 5 somewhere in this box. So none of these squares can be 5. We can't put a 5 here, because if we did, that would put a 4 into this square, and the 4's would be connected with the 4, 6 cage. So the 5's have got to be either here or here. I think that must be true. Now, is there a way for us to tell which of those is correct? And there might be, but the important thing we can immediately deduce is that obviously now the 5 is fixed in this 15 cage. It must be on this side, which means we get a 2, 8 pair in column 4. Now that marries up rather nicely with the 2 8s there, look. So now there must be an 8 in one of those 2 positions in the box at the top. Got a 1 and 5 here, actually, look at that. So that should be a 2 already. We could have done that before, or I could have done that before. That fixes the 1 here, gives us a 5 here as well. Fixes a 2 at the bottom. It gives us a 7 as well, actually. Should have picked all these digits off with a bit more alacrity, but forgive me, as I say, it is quite late for me today. Now, let's have a look. I feel like we can place the 2 here, which we can. That gives us a 4, 6 pair, and fixes that this square is an 8. Now these two squares can also be fixed. They've got to be 6 and 8. So these two squares have got to be 3 and 4 to complete the box. Okay. Now, this is important as well, because let's have a quick focus on this square. Can this square be a 3? Now, the interesting thing is, if we try and put a 3 in this box, because it's part of this cage, where could we then put a 3 in this 3x3 box? We couldn't have it here, here, here. So there's only one position that the 3 could go into, which would be here. But I can't put a 3 here either, because that would lead to a 6 in the 9 cage, which connects 6 already here. So this has to be a 4. Well, that's a 3. Now, we can now repeat that logic thinking about the 4. Because where can a 4 go in the central 3x3? It can't go here, it can't go here, it can't go here. If it's in the 9 cage, that forces a 5 above, which repeats the 9. So this is the only position for the 4. It's just brilliant, isn't it? It's a brilliant idea, brilliantly executed. Okay, so we reach this point. Now let me just have a quick stare and try and remember what I did next. I think I did something with 1s, if I remember rightly. I think the 1s and the 2s are quite restricted at this point. Yeah, 2s there can resolve a bit more. We've got a 1 in this cage, which connects to this cage. So there's now, with the 1 at the top there, ruling out the 1s from those positions, this gives us a 1 in the central 3x3, which locks the 8 in as well. These squares have got to be 3, 4, and 7 in some order. One can't be a 4. That one can't be an 8. In fact, that one can't be an 8 either. The 8 is locked into one of those two squares. This can't be a 5, and the reason it can't be a 5 is it's connected. These two cages are connected. It's so easy to miss opportunities like that to make quick progress. So now there's a 5 in one of those 3 positions, as there's also a 1 look in one of those 3 positions. This 2 resolves the 2, 8 in the middle. And this 1, 2 pair has quite a profound effect on the position of the 2 in this box, because you can't have a 2 in any of those squares because of the 2's over here. So we know the 2 is in one of those 3 positions, but it can be in neither of these 2 because of this cage here. So the 2 is forced into that position. And this can't be a 1 either, for the same reason. It would be connected to the 1 in this cage. And now look at this. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in this row. So the options for this square, in theory, are 6, 7, 8, and 9. But it can't be a 7, 8, or a 9, because it would see these 7, 8, and 9s in this cage. So in fact, that can only be a 6, which gives us a 6 and an 8 over on the other side of the grid, and locks this square to being a 7 or a 9. Okay. Oh yeah, and I think I could do something. Yeah, if we look at this square here, we need to put a 3 or a 6 in this box, but this can't be a 3 or a 6 because of the 3 or the 6 here. So this square can only be a 7 or a 9, which gives us rather a nice 7-9 pair in the row look. So we still need 1, 3, 5, and 8. So the 8 here means there's an 8 in one of those two squares. So this square must be the 3 now. all looks like it's working. There must be a 6. Well, this is 6, 7, 9 in some order, so let's label that up and see if we can figure out anything else. And, oh yeah, and one of the nice things we could do, look. Yeah, we can do it. Look, we've got 1s here and here. So we know there's a 1 in one of those 3 squares, but this one can't be a 1 because the 16 cage is connected with the 9 cage, which contains a 1. So the 1 is in one of those 2 positions where it marries up nicely with the 1s in this box. So column 7 and column 8 have got their 1s now. You can't put another 1 in this position. This is going to have to be a 2 therefore, which gives us a 1 here. Now we've got 2s in these squares and this square. So we now know there's a 2 in the 16 cage. Now we may be able to do better than that, yeah, because we've got 8 here, so this is an 8, this is a 2, therefore that's a 2, and that is enough, I think, to crack the remaining logic in the puzzle. And the reason is we can now look at this 16 cage in a new light. We know it contains a 2 and a 3, so we know it needs 11 more in 2 cells, but we can't use 2, 9, we can't use 3, 8, so this square here either has to be from a 4, 7 combination or from a 5, 6 combination. But it can't be 5 and it can't be 6. So this square has to be 4 and 7. Therefore these 2 squares here are also 3, 4, 7 in some order. We've got a 7 there, look. So in fact that one's the 7. And okay, so that resolves this 7. Gives us a 3 here, locks the 3 and the 4 into position. 7, 9, 1, 5, 8. I think there are a few ways we could continue from this juncture. I mean, one of the ways might be to look at this square and ask whether this square could ever be a 1. And I think the answer is no, because if this is a 1, what happens? How do we make this work? If this was a 9, we'd need 15 more. So if this is a 9, that would be a 6 here, which would repeat the 6. But if this is a 1, remember this is shifted over to be an 8. So if this is a 7, we'd need an 8 here, we'd have repeated 8. So this is not a 1. Oops. Which means that one's the 1. Therefore, this is a 1 here. So this square must be a 6 or a 9. And we need 5, 6, and 9 into those squares as well. Now this is a 5, 8 pair. I feel like we can resolve that if I think about it. Yeah, can this ever be an 8? No, because that's going to break the 16 cage. 8, 7 would repeat the 1. So this in fact is a 5, this is an 8. Therefore this is a 5. How are we going to make the 16 cage work now? If we put a 9 in here, that would lead to this being a 2, which would repeat the 2. So this is a 7. That resolves everything over on the right hand side as well. 6, 7 pair here. We've got a 6, 9 though here, so this square has got to be a 4. 6, 7, 6, 9. The 4 here fixes that this is a 7. Therefore this is a 3. This is a 4. This is a 6. This is a 6. That's a 9. That's a 7. And I think we're nearly there now. How do we complete the 16 cage? We're going to need a 4. That gives us the 4 and the 3. This square must be a 5 now. This is a 6. This is a 4. That resolves the 9 and the 6 at the bottom, look. These 2 squares here, we're going to need a 9 and a 3. I feel like that should be resolvable immediately, but I'm not quite seeing how to do that. So let's carry on with that square in the meantime. This is also a 9 or a 3. Ah, yeah, I see. Look how clever this is. The 16 cage contains a 3 down there, so that's got to be a 9. That resolves it. That's a 3 at the top. That gives us the 7 here. This should be a 9 now. And with a bit of luck, I can put a 3 in here and finish the puzzle. What a brilliant, brilliant puzzle. So thank you to Phistomefel for making my plane journey go a little bit more quickly. And again, apologies for the quality of the video today, but I'm absolutely certain that the quality of the puzzle made up for it. Do let me know in the comments if you enjoyed it too, and we'll be back soon with another edition of Cracking